What do imaginary dogs, monsters from another dimension, and a live decapitation have in common? They're all from projects starring these former Lord of the Rings stars. Here's what The Lord of the Rings looks like now.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here.
Since The Lord of the Rings days, Elijah Wood has been an instantly recognizable star and has had a delightfully eclectic resume, doing everything from high-profile films to animated voiceover roles to quirky television series. Wood provided the voices for Mumble in DreamWorks' family-friendly Happy Feet and worked in Cartoon Network's spooky Over the Garden Wall. He starred in the series Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency and Wilfred, and has appeared in films such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Sin City, and I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Makes me so furious! Kevin, stop it!
Most recently, Wood has lent his voice acting talents to the Disney Channel animated series Star Wars Resistance and Cartoon Network's Summer Camp Island, but has also stayed busy in live-action roles, starring in Come to Daddy in 2019 and No Man of God in 2021. Perhaps best known for his role as Frodo's right-hand man, Samwise Gamgee actor Sean Astin has changed a lot since portraying the loyal and tender-hearted Hobbit. Prior to The Lord of the Rings, Astin was known for playing Mikey Walsh in the classic children's adventure film The Goonies, and as the title character in famous Notre Dame football walk-on story Rudy. Since The Lord of the Rings, though, Astin hasn't returned to the film spotlight, appearing only in smaller supporting roles in movies like the Adam Sandler comedies 50 First Dates and Click. Instead, Astin has done a lot of voiceover work for various animated series, lending his vocal talents to everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Captain Underpants. Astin has also guest starred on a wide variety of television series, including Law & Order, 24, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he's been part of the cast of various live-action miniseries. He played Jim Kent on the FX series The Strain, Sonny Grice on HBO's Perry Mason, and most notably Bob Newby in Netflix's mega-hit series Stranger Things. Astin also starred in the Netflix original sitcom No Good Nick, which ran for 2 seasons. Undoubtedly, the most decorated of all the Lord of the Rings cast members, Sir Ian McKellen only looks all the more wiser than when he played legendary wizard Gandalf the White and previously Gandalf the Grey. The knighted actor has more awards than you can shake a wizard's staff at. McKellen won a Golden Globe Award for his role in the made-for-TV movie Rasputin. He's also won 2 Saturn Awards, an Annie Award, an honorary Golden Berlin Bear, 2 British Independent Film Awards, 2 Critics' Choice Awards, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and the list only goes on from there. He is an accomplished stage actor, in addition to one of the big screen's biggest stars, with The Lord of the Rings merely being another accomplishment to add to his already extensive resume of fine films.
Here the hammer-stroke will fall hardest.
McKellen reprised his role as Gandalf in the Hobbit trilogy of films and has also had an impressive run as Magneto in Fox's X-Men films. More recently, he has starred in the National Theatre live production of King Lear in 2018 as Gus the theater cat in the movie musical Cats and as a con artist opposite Dame Helen Mirren in the 2019 film The Good Liar. Although Boromir will always be known as the one member of the Fellowship who tried to take the ring from Frodo, Sean Bean imbued the character with warmth and nobility.
Please, Frodo.
His loss at the end of The Fellowship of the Ring still feels tragic despite his earlier actions. Following The Lord of the Rings, Bean went on to appear in numerous films, including Troy, National Treasure, and Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. In 2011, the actor took on what would become his most notable role as leading man Ned Stark on the first season of Game of Thrones, the hit TV adaptation of J.R.R. Martin's popular A Song of Ice and Fire book series. However, spoiler alert, he gets his head lopped off in the penultimate episode of the debut season. Although playing characters who meet tragic ends is nothing new for Bean, as the actor is notorious for being killed off in what seems like every role he's ever played. Since Game of Thrones, Bean has continued to appear in significant roles in films such as Jupiter Ascending and The Martian, although his work has taken a turn toward television in more recent years. After starring in the BBC series Broken in 2017, Bean went on to appear in series such as The Frankenstein Chronicles, World on Fire, and Snowpiercer. A household name today, Orlando Bloom is no longer the immortal baby-faced Elvin Bowman we first met in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, despite efforts to make him appear that way in the Hobbit films. For a while following the Lord of the Rings, Bloom continued to gravitate toward grand-scale combat-heavy blockbusters. He starred in the first 3 films in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, co-starred alongside Brad Pitt and Eric Bana in Troy, and led the historical epic Kingdom of Heaven. In recent years, though, Bloom has drifted toward more tonally diverse projects, starring in the disturbing trauma drama Retaliation in 2017 and the gritty war film The Outpost in 2020. Bloom has also made the jump to television, starring in Amazon's Victorian fantasy series Carnival Row and voicing Prince Harry in HBO's animated series The Prince. And he is in the reality-bending 2021 time travel drama Needle in a Time Stack, in which he plays a romantic rival to Leslie Odom Jr.'s temporally challenged protagonist. He's known for playing the more serious of the two hobbits who decided to tag along with the Fellowship, despite not being invited. Dominic Monaghan, the actor behind Meriadoc Brandybuck, isn't quite the pipeweed smoking halfling we remember from the Lord of the Rings films. Following The Lord of the Rings, Monaghan went on to play Charlie Pace in the first 3 seasons of ABC's juggernaut series Lost, a character that possibly rivaled even Merry in notability. The English actor also played Chris Bradley in X-Men Origins Wolverine, along with a number of other film roles that are much less well known. After his time on Lost, Monaghan had regular roles on numerous television series, including Flash Forward, 100 Code, and Quantum Break. Monaghan also spent several years hosting Wild Things with Dominic Monaghan, a wildlife documentary series nominated for numerous awards. In recent years, Monaghan has continued to act, appearing in a small role in Star Wars Episode IX: The Rise of Skywalker, along with several smaller projects. He also has appeared on numerous podcasts, and still hosts one, along with the Lord of the Rings co-star Billy Boyd, called The Friendship Onion. You'd be forgiven for not being able to name another film featuring Billy Boyd, the actor behind the Lord of the Rings Peregrine Pippin Took. No doubt it would be due to not recognizing the middle-aged actor because he always manages to look younger than he really is, much like a hobbit. Boyd's biggest role by far was playing the most confused pipeweed-toking hobbit in The Fellowship. Although Boyd continued to act following The Lord of the Rings, his roles have not been nearly as memorable. His most notable part was playing Barrett Bondin in the Russell Crowe Sea epic Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. But don't be too sad for Boyd, since his true passion is music. The famous hobbit is the frontman for a band called Beatcake, playing guitar and providing vocals. Boyd also wrote and performed the end credits theme for The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, further lending his influence to Middle-earth and providing trivia material for die-hard Hobbit fans. In recent years, Boyd has guest starred on a number of television shows, including Doom Patrol, Grey's Anatomy, and a short arc on Outlander. You'd probably no longer recognize Viggo Mortensen as the long-haired ranger who launched himself into a battle with a group of ringwraiths on Weathertop, wielding a sword and a flaming torch. Now Mortensen is older and grayer, but still knows how to command the screen. Before The Lord of the Rings, Mortensen had already come into his own as an actor, spending the 90s acting in a number of notable films, including G.I. Jane, A Perfect Murder, and A Walk on the Moon. Nevertheless, Peter Jackson's award-winning trilogy cemented the Danish-American actor's place in the film industry.
It's exhausting being me.
Mortensen later acted in David Cronenberg films A History of Violence and Eastern Promises, the latter earning him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Working well together, the director and actor teamed up again for 2011's A Dangerous Method, which landed Mortensen a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Then, in 2018, Mortensen starred alongside Mahershala Ali in Green Book, which won an Academy Award for Best Picture. Mortensen continues to be a highly in-demand actor with numerous major upcoming projects, including Ron Howard's 13 Lives and another collaboration with David Cronenberg, Crimes of the Future. Before playing Gimli, the axe-wielding dwarf who refuses to be tossed, except when there's no other choice, John Rhys-Davies was probably best known as Sallah, the affable Arab in the Indiana Jones films. Since The Lord of the Rings, however, Rhys-Davies has appeared in dozens of films, video games, and TV series, including both live-action and voiceover roles.
Do you know who I am?
Prior to The Lord of the Rings, Rhys-Davies was already a highly accomplished television actor, with roles in series such as The Untouchables, Sliders, Star Trek Voyager, and The Living Daylights. He continued to pursue all types of acting after The Lord of the Rings, making appearances on dozens of shows, including Psych, The Shannara Chronicles, and Wizards. Rhys-Davies has also regularly appeared in films, although none as big as The Lord of the Rings. Most recently, the definitely not dwarvish actor, standing at slightly above average 6 feet 1 inch, has worked on a number of smaller films, including Kingslayer and Bad Cupid. After getting her start in film, starring in music videos for her father's band Aerosmith, Liv Tyler made a name for herself in the 90s in lighthearted films That Thing You Do and Empire Records. She also starred in quieter dramas such as Stealing Beauty and Inventing the Abbotts, before moving on to play Bruce Willis's daughter in Michael Bay's cataclysmic blockbuster Armageddon. So it came as a surprise to many when she was cast as Arwen, the immortal daughter of the elf lord Elrond and the love interest of Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings. But Tyler seized the role and made it her own, fitting right in among the rest of the cast and story, despite Arwen being a much smaller part of the books. Following The Lord of the Rings, Tyler was one of the first actors to be recruited into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with her role as Betty Ross in The Incredible Hulk. Although unfortunately for her, that film tends to be intentionally omitted from the MCU canon by most fans, and Tyler hasn't been seen in the superhero franchise since. After starring in a few more films, Tyler pivoted to television, starring as Meg Abbott in HBO's The Leftovers, and later as Lady Isabella Fitzwilliam in the Hulu period drama Harlots. Most recently, Tyler appeared opposite Brad Pitt in the sci-fi drama Ad Astra and in a 10-episode arc on the firefighting series 911 Lone Star. Hugo Weaving has a knack for playing ageless characters, starring as the sentient computer program Agent Smith in The Matrix before taking on the role of Elrond in The Lord of the Rings. However, the two could not have been more different, with Smith determined to destroy Neo and his human resistance, while Elrond worked to save the world of men from Sauron and the power of the One Ring. After starring in The Lord of the Rings, Weaving would reprise his role as Smith in the Matrix sequels and also as Elrond in the Hobbit films, but his iconic roles wouldn't end there. He also played V in V for Vendetta, Red Skull in Captain America: The First Avenger, and voiced Megatron in the Transformers films. Weaving's other film roles include Cloud Atlas, Hacksaw Ridge, and the Peter Jackson-helmed Mortal Engines. Most recently, Weaving appeared in the Australian streaming series Love Me, and as Dr. Bergman in the sci-fi thriller Expired. For many actors, The Lord of the Rings would be the obvious high point of their career. However, the role as the Elven Queen Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings is a mere side note in Cate Blanchett's impressive career. The actor owns enough Academy Awards, British Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, and other awards to fill a house. She is the first performer to win an Oscar for portraying another Oscar-winning performer, thanks to her role as Katharine Hepburn in The Aviator.
There we both are.
With such accolades, it's clear that Blanchett's role on film have been extensive and noteworthy. Her Oscar-nominated roles also include Notes on a Scandal, I'm Not There, Elizabeth the Golden Age, Blue Jasmine, and Carol. But her memorable performances go far beyond that. In addition to reprising her role as Galadriel in all three films of the Hobbit trilogy, Blanchett has wowed audiences in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Thor Ragnarok, Ocean's 8, and Nightmare Alley. In 2020, she starred in the FX miniseries Mrs. America, and as part of the ensemble cast of Netflix's miniseries Stateless. Blanchett currently has numerous other features and TV miniseries in the works, and if the past is any indication, we're sure she has many more awards in her future as well. David Wenham, the actor known in the Lord of the Rings universe as Faramir, has been busy since his days of fighting for Gondor and the World of Men. Wenham broke through into the upper tier of actors by starring as Diver Dan in ABC's Sea Change. It was a highly successful television series that helped land the actor an important role in the second and third installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. After Middle-earth was saved, Wenham moved on to a pair of supporting roles alongside Hugh Jackman and Gerard Butler. He played Friar Karl in Van Helsing, and Delios, the narrator and warrior in stylistic Persian slang epic 300. In 2009, Wenham went back to the stage, playing the title character in Jerry Springer the Opera, which ran for 6 sold-out days at the Sydney Opera House. The following year, he portrayed Melbourne lawyer Andrew Fraser's long fall from the top in the Australian television series Killing Time. Most recently, Wenham has had a series of small-screen roles, including Harold Meacham in Iron Fist, Al Parker in Top of the Lake, Jago Zorich in Romper Stomper, and Price Scalise in Les Norton. In between, Wenham has still managed to squeeze in some film roles, lending his voice to the Peter Rabbit films and appearing in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. He can next be spotted as Hank Snow in the Baz Luhrmann biopic Elvis. As Denethor, the merciless steward of Gondor, John Noble certainly didn't do much to endear himself to fans, as his character sent his only living son on a pointless suicide mission. He then attempted to finish the job by burning him alive. Denethor died horribly, first catching fire on the pyre meant for his son, then throwing himself from the highest point of Osgiliath in The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. Noble's next major role would prove to be far more ingratiating as lovable scientist Walter Bishop in the hit sci-fi series Fringe. Noble starred on the series for 100 episodes between 2008 and 2013, arguably cementing that character in pop culture even over Denethor. Following the end of Fringe, Noble went on to appear in a number of television series, including Sleepy Hollow, Elementary, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Noble also still occasionally appears in films, with one of his most recent roles being in Silencio. Currently, Noble voices the Diviner on the animated Paramount Plus series Star Trek Prodigy. After galloping into the Lord of the Rings films as Éomer, one of the fearless writers of Rohan, Karl Urban, went on to have an impressive career following the conclusion of the trilogy. He starred in action-packed films such as The Bourne Supremacy, The Chronicles of Riddick, and Doom. Urban's next big break came in 2009 when he starred alongside Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto as Leonard Bones McCoy in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot. Urban's impressive DeForest Kelley impersonation won him the favor of Star Trek fans worldwide. He would go on to reprise the role in 2 sequels, with another on the way.
You'll love it.
Urban also entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Scourge in Thor Ragnarok and appeared in a number of films and television series in between giant blockbusters, including a starring role in the short-lived sci-fi series Almost Human. In 2019, he began playing the role of Billy Butcher on Amazon's popular superhero series The Boys. With multiple major franchises and a super successful TV series under his belt, it's safe to say that Karl Urban has been doing pretty well for himself post The Lord of the Rings. Australian actress Miranda Otto already had an impressive resume prior to The Lord of the Rings, appearing in numerous films and television series before taking on the role of the fierce shield maiden Éowyn. First introduced in The Two Towers, Éowyn was the sister of Éomer and the niece of King Theoden of Rohan, who was not content to hide from battle along with the other women and children. She instead disguised herself as a man in order to fight. Éowyn was the only character in the films to successfully take down a ringwraith, iconically lopping the head off of a fell beast before killing the Witch King of Angmar during the Battle of Pelennor Fields. After The Lord of the Rings, Otto continued to work regularly in both television and film, with recurring roles in shows including Homeland and 24 Legacy, and a regular role on Netflix's chilling adventures of Sabrina. Next up, Otto can be seen in the upcoming modern fantasy The Portable Door. She will also appear in All the Colors of the Dark, a tense immigration drama in which Otto will star alongside Noah Wyle. Several years after playing the captain of the doomed ship in Titanic, Bernard Hill would go on to portray a much more heroic leader as King Theoden of Rohan in the Lord of the Rings films. Theoden was first introduced as a frail old man in The Two Towers, but after breaking the dark enchantment that had been cast over him, Gandalf restored Theoden to health and vitality. Theoden went on to lead the armies of Rohan to victory against the orcs of Isengard despite overwhelming odds, but ultimately was killed by the Witch King of Angmar during the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Bernard Hill had a long and impressive acting career prior to The Lord of the Rings, and continued to work regularly afterward. He appeared in dozens of films and television shows, and earned an Emmy nomination for his portrayal of David Blunkett in the television movie A Very Social Secretary. However, in recent years, Hill seems to have taken some time off, with his last significant role being as the narrator of an episode of the TV docuseries Horizon in 2016. Still, Hill does appear to have some projects in the hopper, with several films in various stages of production. Buried under piles of greasy black hair and without eyebrows, you may not have recognized Brad Dourif from his roles in significant films such as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and 1984's Dune. He appeared as the sniveling Grima Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings, a not-so-secret double agent who was loyal to Sauron while ostensibly serving King Theoden. Wormtongue manipulated Rohan's king to do the White Wizard's bidding. That is until Saruman's enchantment was broken by Gandalf and Wormtongue was exiled. Wormtongue later betrayed Saruman too, stabbing him in the back, literally, before being shot with arrows and killed. Dourif has provided the voice of Chucky the Killer Doll throughout the Child's Play franchise, and continued to do so after The Lord of the Rings.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
He also appeared as Sheriff Lee Brackett in Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween remake and its sequel. Dourif didn't just make horror movies, though. He's appeared in numerous films, as well as guest starred on a number of television shows, including Once Upon a Time and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Currently, Dourif is still voicing Chucky in the sci-fi original series Chucky, and has roles in several films still in production. New Zealand actor Craig Parker played Haldir in the first 2 Lord of the Rings films, the Lothlorien elf who first greeted the Fellowship upon their entry into the mystical woods. He later showed up to help support the men of Rohan in their stand against the forces of Isengard at Helm's Deep. Tragically, despite the immortality of the elves, Haldir was slain during the Battle of Helm's Deep, driving home for both Aragorn and the audience just how high the cost of the fighting was. Prior to The Lord of the Rings, Parker was mostly known for playing Guy Warner in the New Zealand soap opera Shortland Street. The role is one he reprised again in 2007 for the show's 15th anniversary and continued to play through 2008. Parker also appeared in a number of other television shows in recurring or main roles, including Legend of the Seeker, Spartacus, Reign, and Charmed. Most recently, Parker appeared in a recurring role in the free-form show Good Trouble, playing pompous artist Yuri Elwin. In a role that was mostly performed through motion capture, Andy Serkis didn't have a lot of screen time in The Lord of the Rings. However, he still came out of the experience as a household name thanks to his brilliant portrayal of the tragic and singularly focused Gollum. Thanks to his nuanced and emotive motion capture and voice performance, Serkis would go on to make a name for himself as the go-to motion capture performer in Hollywood. He later brought to life characters such as the titular ape in King Kong, Supreme Leader Snoke in Star Wars, and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes films.
Ape. Not kill.
But Serkis also continued to act on screen as well, appearing in a number of well-received and highly publicized films such as 13 Going on 30, The Prestige, and Black Panther, along with smaller titles that are less well-known. Serkis also stepped behind the lens to direct as a second-unit director for the Hobbit trilogy, which also saw him reprise his role as Gollum. He went on to direct several other feature films as well, including the recent dark superhero flick Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Recently, Serkis continues to dip his toes into as many lucrative franchises as possible. He had his recent role as Alfred in The Batman and has several projects including film sequels, original films, and a video game voiceover role currently in the works. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.